Okay, so I guess it started. Yep. Okay. Hello, YouTube people. So my name is Rahul Chaudhary, and today, this is my first video, and I am going to show you a demonstration of PHP security project. So it's an OWASP project, and let me first introduce you to the official website. So just follow the screen, and in your new browser, you can just type the URL phpsec.owasp.org. So this is the official website of this project, and the presentation slides that I'm going to show you, it is in this link, the main. It points to the presentation slides, and there's another slide which I will use later. So you can open these two slides for your reference. And so let's get started. So okay, so the PHPSEC project is it was started in Google Summer of Code this summer. So hopefully you already know what is Google Summer of Code. So if you don't know, it is hosted by Google, and in the duration of all your summer, many open source organizations participate in this particular kind of project, and they host their projects on the web, and guys like developers and other security or any guys who are interested in those open source projects, they go and contribute to those projects. So one of those projects was hosted by OWASP, and its name was PHPSEC. So it's a new project, and I was selected to build this project, and so that's it. So I completed the project, and here it is. I'm showing it. So let me go to the presentation slides. Okay, so what you see is a presentation in AppSec USA. AppSec USA is a conference, online conference that is held every year, and so as you can see in the first slide, I have created a link here which says that if you'll go and click this link, it will show you, it will ask you about how much do you know security, because it's a security related project. So go ahead and fill this form. I mean, this gives me a better idea of who you are and who I am talking to. And then there's a Google group online which you can use it for forums. So that is a good place. You can go and chat there about this particular project. So PHPSEC. Okay, so it's for PHP, and the symbol you are seeing on the left is OWASP. So so it's a mixture of OWASP and PHP. So OWASP meets PHP. And if you still don't get what is PHPSEC, it's abbreviation for PHP security. So I guess that you have already figured that out. Okay, so please don't be afraid to ask questions, because you can always post your questions in the comment box or in the forum that I showed you earlier. And please provide your feedbacks, because I really need them to improve my presentations in the future. So who we are? Okay, so PHPSEC was.
Can you just try to resize your browser window just to have a better ratio? Because right now I feel like it's stretched.
Okay, is this good?
Oh yeah, this is good.
Okay.
Because this varied a lot, so we can just go on.
Yeah, sure.
I'm sorry for the interruption.
No problem. Okay, so as I've already said, PHPSEC was started in Google Summer of Code. After that, like at that time, there were two guys working on it. One was me, obviously, and then other was this guy called Abbas Naderi. He is the chapter leader of Iran in OWASP, so that's a pretty decent thing to be. I guess no, that's yours. Okay. Okay. So at first we were these two. Why is it not coming?
Did you touch something?
No.
Okay.
Okay. So at first there were two guys, Abbas and me, working on the project, and as time went by, many open source contributors came forward and showed interest, and eventually, like at now, I guess we are like 10, 12 people working on it constantly, and it's open source. So I would really encourage you to come and join this project because it's a really, really exciting project. So who is this intended to? Obviously, it's for security guys. So anyone who is interested in security of web applications should really attend this session or hear this session. Any web users, general web users, which I guess most of you are. So if you want to know about general security stuff and what's really out there, you can watch this thing and hopefully you will get something out of it. And obviously, if you are a PHP developer or you make PHP applications or you work for a company that make PHP applications, you should really know about the security risks that are always present there, but you just don't feel it. So, disclaimer. Okay, that's a funny one. The picture shows that everyone points to each other, and which is the real scenario always. And even though we hate it, we have to put this thing that you have to use this project at your own risk. It's just been 5 months since the project was started. It has not been tested thoroughly, but we really promise that it will be tested thoroughly as soon as we can complete it and bind everything together. So all in all, just use at your own risk for now, but don't be disappointed because we constantly keep working on it and we work hard. So and like we update it pretty frequently. So I guess you won't find that many problems with this project right now. And it's about time that we are like producing the version 1. So I hope that the version 1 would be a stable version and we don't have to change a lot of things, but I have my fingers crossed. Okay, what other libraries are out there which is similar? So I found actually a couple of them, and they are pretty decent ones. So the first one is J Framework. It was made in parallel with the PHP security project. It was made by Abbas Naderi, who you already saw that is my mentor in this project. And these two projects are basically same in concept, but the J framework contains a lot of actual framework stuff, and PHPSEC is a lot of it is devoted more towards libraries. So in the end we hope to achieve like a fusion between J framework and PHPSEC so that we have the best of both. And the second library is PHPSEC. Now, when we kept our project's name PHPSEC, we didn't know that this name was kind of already taken. So this is also an open source project, and it's licensed under MIT license. Ours project is licensed under open source project, and in the given link you can find more about that project. And there's a PHP security library, which is kind of a subset of our libraries because it's a pretty small library. ours contains many more functions. So in your own time, go and check those links. Those are pretty good libraries. Okay, so brief introduction of what this project is. So in all, I can just say that PHPSEC is a collection of many security libraries. So you must have heard about the OWASP top 10 list. So what OWASP does is that uh, each year it comes up with top 10 list of threats that people usually face. So these can be anything ranging from SQL injection to authentication attacks to CSRF attacks, anything. So OWASP just rate them based on their popularity level, and you can visit this link to see this year's top 10 list. And my job was pretty much clear when I started to build this project. So my mentor said that you have to do something about each of the points in these lists. So if you'll go and look at this list, the first one is SQL injection. There are many other things like CSRF is pretty much popular. XSS attacks is popular. Authentication attacks is popular. So uh, I had to come up with a solution for each of these problems, and basically that are the libraries. So as I said, there is SQL injection problem. So for that, there is a separate library for that. For authentication, there's a separate library for that, and so on and so on. And once I had a decent list of libraries, like 12 or 13 libraries, there's like I combined all those libraries to uh, create a framework on top of that. So this project contains two things. It contains a set of libraries, and it contains a framework which is built on top of all the libraries. So um, in this slide, you can just see the overview of the whole framework that is built. So as I said, framework is built on top of libraries, and you can see that this whole gray thing is the PHPSEC framework, and framework itself is divided into model view controller, which I hope you already know is the decent way to divide your web applications, in which view contains all of your HTML files, model contains the business logic, and controller contains it's kind of a path between model and your actual request. So it captures the request, does something with it, and uh, passes the response to the user. So if you don't know about what is MVC design, you should really go and read it. It's really simple, it's really handy, it's really awesome. So go ahead, take a look at the MVC design, and I should move forward with it. So the framework combines all those libraries, and by combining those libraries, you actually get a lot of good functions out of it, like login, sign up, remember me. You see that a login requires a lot of stuff. I mean, you need to make sessions, you need to create sessions, then you need to check the credentials, and there are many stuff that you need to do to log in a user. um, with this login function, you don't have to do anything. I mean, it does everything on its own, and it does that with the help of all the libraries that are behind it. Okay, so you can see what is the structure of the entire project. There are libraries present, which you can see in red, and on top of that, a framework is built, which you can see in blue. And the green part just shows that, okay, how they are connected, libraries and functions. So okay, one of the good questions is why to use PHPSEC. So there are many like the first thing I want to say about PHPSEC is that it's still in the development phase. I mean, we are just about to release the first version, and there are many more versions to come. But in the first version, we have worked hard to mitigate these attacks, which you can see. So I'm going to highlight some of them. you can see that there are like this library mitigates brute force attacks. This library mitigates XSS attacks, code attacks, injection attacks. It has a central time library. It has a central random library which generates a secure pseudo-random number, and it implements various functions such as remember me, temporary passwords. So this is like there are more. This library contains functions to encrypt some codes and uh, make your uh, make your very secure configuration files. Configuration files are usually not secure. It makes them secure by encrypting them. It makes you safe against SQL injection attacks, and it has static libraries to scan your code and find out security threats in your code. And there are like many more damages that are mitigated using this particular set of libraries. So I will go through them, each of them one by one, and you will then get a clear idea of what is what. But first I'm going to drink water because I'm thirsty now. So just take 1 second. Yeah. Okay, so I'm back. So let's move forward. Okay, I forgot to tell you, it also has logs library to log whatever in log important events, and then there is session libraries to implement secure sessions. Okay, so I promised you that I'll go over each of the library one by one, and this is one of the first libraries. You can see the image, and it's pretty straightforward. Okay, so the guy that is smoking in the left, that's actually many people out there. They think that they are safe, but actually they're not. You see the thief running from the guy. I mean, he has already stolen every money, and the guy doesn't even know that he's being stolen. He's being cheated. So that's the case with the password library. Now, I don't need to tell you how much passwords are important. You already know that. I mean, when you are shopping online, what can you rely? Like, how can you say that you are the person that is buying stuff and not some attacker buying on, from your own credit card? I mean, obviously there are biometrics. There are people can take eye retina scan, and then they can take your thumbprints, fingerprints. They can also do you can also have smart cards that you use when you go in your company. But when you're shopping online or you're doing something online, there's nothing out there except for password. So password is the only shield that is between you and the attacker. So they need to be pretty much safe. And as time increases, and as parallel computing is emerging, attackers are getting a lot of power to actually guess your password. Now, as my understanding, there are only two ways that your password can be hacked. Either the attackers can guess your password, or they can actually, you know, uh, ask you. So you must have heard about these social engineering attacks, right? So what happens in social engineering is that a guy calls you, says that, okay, he's your boss, and he's asking for your password, and since you don't want to lose the job, you actually give your password. Now, this is social engineering. You are kind of being tricked to give your password, and no technology can actually save you if you yourself give your password to people. So unfortunately, we cannot do anything about social engineering. Only one thing can be done is that we can teach users as much as we can to not give your passwords to anyone. And the second thing that that the attackers usually use is to guess your passwords. Now, it seems really complicated and it seems really tough, but it's really easy. People, you just won't believe how silly passwords people keep. I mean, ABCD, 1, 2, 3, 4. I will just show you a simple example of uh, a common password. So just hang in there. Okay, so here's this guy named Tom, and sorry for that. And he says that, okay, my name is Tom, and what if I concatenate my zip code with my name? I mean, if his zip code is 15213, then his password is Tom15213, and he thinks that he's pretty smart, and you know, his password is not guessable, but that's wrong. I mean, attackers have a whether you admit it or not, they have great minds, and they usually come up with tricky things to guess your password. So you should be assured that they have already think of this way, and they will actually guess that your name is concatenated with your zip code, and this way you have not only exposed a weak password, but you have also told the attacker that where you live. So that's pretty bad, right? I mean, you don't want anyone to knock on your door and they can actually uh, do lots of nasty stuff if they knew that where you live. Okay, so please see that, okay, password guessing is easy. So what to do about it? So that's where our password library kicks in. Okay, so we think that to make your passwords more random, which means that to make your passwords unguessable, it should have a high entropy. Now, entropy, if you read about entropy, it says that it's the measure of randomness. So the more random your string is, the more higher value of entropy you will get. So you want your entropy to be high because you want your passwords to be random and unguessable. And our library supports functions that that actually checks for ordered characters. So something like ABCD is a ordered character, because after A and B you can automatically with a high probability predict that the next letter is going to be C and the next letter is going to be D. So these are ordered characters where you can pretty much guess that what's the next character. So even in your keyboard there are order characters, something like QWERT, which is your first row, ASTFG, which is your second row. So people usually tend to keep these letters in their passwords, which make their passwords less secure. So our functions check about these ordered characters and doesn't let them to be in your password. Obviously, we also check about phone numbers and dates. So if you keep your phone number or your date of birth or your daughter's date of birth as your password, uh, our functions will straight away reject that. We have functions built in this library that actually checks the strength of your password. So the range is between 0 and 1, where 0 is the most weakest password and 1 is the most strongest password. We have functions to generate a strong random password, which is hard to guess. And finally, we have functions to uh, securely hash your password. So I hope you already know about hashing. If not, go check out, I mean, just Google hashing and you will know what hashing means. Okay, so with all these pretty great functions, we cannot just assume that password guessing is now not possible, because because password guessing will always be possible. So what to do about it? Well, we have made the first step, and then you can join, and you can actually come and contribute to this library, and come up with pretty great ideas on how to make passwords more random. So we are open to suggestions. Okay, so that was basic password library, and now we are moving on to advanced password library. Now what it is? So we already saw that basic password library gives you pretty neat functions of what to do, what to do with passwords, how to make them more random, how to securely hash it, and on and on. With advanced password library, it's kind of built on top of the basic password library, and um, it has two main functions in it. Okay, so first one is that it checks whether brute force is happening in your account or not. Okay, so how it is checking it, it is a pretty gory detail, which I think that you don't need right now, but I really encourage you to go to our link of this project, which is hosted in GitHub. Okay, links are given in the last slide, so you can skip to the last slide and get the links. And inside that, if you will go to the libs folder, there will be a user folder. Inside that user folder, you can see advanced password library. If you'll open that, you can actually read how the code works. Basically, what it does is that it checks time interval between two successive login attempts. So if there are if the login attempts are like 100 login attempts within 5 milliseconds, then it's pretty much like you can just say that it's a brute force attack, right? Because no human can do that fast. Okay, the next big thing that this library does, it it creates a temporary password. So generation and validation of temporary passwords is done in this library. So I bet you have already done some transactions online, and when you do transactions online, you usually get a separate password either in your email or in your mobile phone, anywhere, and that's a small password. I mean, I just remember that Google's two-way authentication, when you log into Gmail, Google's two-way authentication is actually an example of temporary password. So that kind of functionality, generating a temporary password and sending it to some device, and then user will enter that password, and once that password is correct, it will give you access. So that functionality is inbuilt in this library. So again, I encourage you to go and read the code, and we are already there to help you out if you don't understand it. So good luck with it. Okay, so now moving on to the third library, which is user library and user management. So if you want to create a web application which does something, then there's 95% chance that you need users in your application. So if you've already created some web applications, you know how hectic it is to add users, delete users, and everything should be done every time in a secure manner. If you don't do it in a secure manner, it's just a security hole that will just uh, that will just annihilate your entire application. So you don't want that. So this library gives you some pretty neat functions that you can use to create users, delete users, update their passwords, account lock, check whether the passwords have already aged. The remember me functionality that you always see, like when you go to Facebook and you log in, there's a small checkbox that says remember me. Once you click that function, click that checkbox, you don't have to enter your password every time. You just come and write facebook.com, and automatically redirects to your home page. So it kinds of remembers your credentials, your username and password. So that's pretty handy, and that is implemented here. uh, I guess rest of the things are already explained. I mean, they are self-explanatory. Password aging is like, you can decide after how much days a user should change their password. So if the length is like 3 months, the this library will actually force the user to change their password. So that is password aging. I guess rest of the things you can already understand what it is. Um, that was the user library. Okay, so now we will move to the crypto library, which is the fourth library, and I bet you will really like this library. This is one of the new libraries that we are introducing, and it's really nice. So to introduce the you know um, how cool encryption is, I just found this image online, and I thought that I'll share this with you. In this image, there are two women, and the first woman is telling the other woman that her boss is so crazy about information security that he sends these messages one alphabet letter at a time, and that also in random sequence. That's hilarious, right, guys? Because like, security is really important, and you want to have security in your every part of your web applications. Now what happens is that even though you have like great authentication system, great password system, and everything is great, but suppose that some attacker comes and hacks your server, so they can see your code, right? Your code is the important thing that runs your business, and there are many configuration files that you want to keep safe. Suppose that you connect to your database, right? So when you connect to database, in file you write the username and the password. That particular information is so sensitive that if it is in wrong hands, it can just destroy your whole application, your whole reputation, and God knows what else. So it's really necessary that you keep some of your configuration files and some of your codes really secure. So this is where our crypto library comes in. So in the first slide, we have already discussed yada, because that the source code contains sensitive information, and you need to protect them. So how can we do that? So in the figure, you can see that you have like sensitive data, okay? And that sensitive data goes into our security, this security crypto library, and our library encrypts this data and keeps it. If you'll compare this to the normal flow of data, you can see that normally your data is never encrypted and it is always visible. Now, just to give you a short example, what I'm saying is that, sorry for that, just a second. Now, suppose that I'm an attacker, okay? I went to your website, okay? I hacked your server, and I see that for your username you are using root, and for your password you are using some password, okay? Now I have your username and password. I can do whatever with your database. I can in fact, there are chances that for your other applications you are using the same username and password, and some of the things like application version and where your files are hidden. These things are pretty much sensitive, and these things are usually kept in files. So this library, what it does is that in the next slide you can see that your original file contains something like this. $config username is root, $config your password is my dog is fat. Okay, so when PHP, like, what you will do is you will change that. In front of root you are putting this function confidential string. So it's kind of marking that, okay, this particular piece of information, root and your password, is confidential. So as soon as the project is run for the first time, those strings are changed to they are changed to their equivalent encryption format. So now the attacker, even though if they can get the file from your web server, your sensitive information is still safe, because it's encrypted, and encryption is usually done with AES. So you can use BC4 or whatever encryption you like, and since it's encrypted, you are pretty much safe, right? So that's how it's done. Whatever sensitive piece of information you have, you just wrap it around this particular function called confidential string, and it does all the work for you. After that, I still encourage you, go to the libraries, open this crypto library, and then you can see this function, that how it works. Okay, so moving forward, database library. Okay, so this is another picture that I found, which is really, really nice. So and I bet if you'll understand this, what it says, you'll really laugh, and you'll laugh hard. So what it is saying is that the principal is calling mother, saying that, okay, your son has broken our all system. So the mother asks, what has he done? And the principal asks the mother that, did you really name your son Robert drop table students? And this is basically an SQL injection attack. I guess, like, I hope that you understand how SQL injection works. If not, you should learn it. It's pretty awesome kind of technique to hack your database and do nasty stuff with it. So she asks whether your son's name is Robert drop table students, and the mother says that, oh yes, we call him Bobby Tables. And the principal says that, okay, I hope that you are happy because now we have lost all our student records. And the mother says that, and I hope that you have learned the value of data sanitization. And I should tell you that this is what database library is. Let me first introduce you to what it is. Okay, you remember I said that the very first comment, like I said, was SQL injections are the most critical stuff out on the internet, and if I'm not wrong, it affects more than 70% of the web applications out there. So that means that out of 100% web applications, if you take 70 out of it, there's a high chance that it contains SQL injection attack. So uh, the good news about this is that there are, like, methods available in the web that actually mitigates the risk. It's called parameterized query, and the bad news is that most people don't know about it, and they still use the old ways to connect to the database, and that makes it really vulnerable to SQL attacks. So what we have done is just a second. Okay, I was drinking water and I was really thirsty. So what we have done is we have created a database library, and internally what it does is that it uses adapters to connect to different kinds of database. Right now, three databases are supported. One is MySQL, another is PGSQL, and the third one is SQLite. Well, for me, MySQL is my favorite, so I'll just take it as an example. So at first, you were using something like db underscore connect kind of function to connect to database, and then you were executing queries and doing stuff. Now what you will do is we will use internally something called parameterized query. Now it's a pretty decent concept, and it's one of the greatest concepts that you will ever know. Just Google this word parameterized query and you will find lots of articles that can explain you what it is. Basically, it is a technique that if you will use, you will never get SQL attacked. So that's nice. Okay, so even if you use parameterized query, there are lots of ways in which you can mess it up, and you know, uh, even though you are using parameterized query, you will end up being still vulnerable because you didn't use it correctly. So what we did is that for each of the database types, which I showed in last slide, we created functions that actually implements parameterized query in a correct way, and ultimately we provide you with a function, single function SQL. So even if you don't understand what parameterized query is, but you want to be safe with SQL injection attacks, you just have to use this one function for everything. I mean, update, insert, delete, create, anything that you want to use, you can just include it in the SQL function. Like I have given an example here. So it says that SQL insert into table session and whatever values you want to insert, and then there are 4 question marks. So the number of question mark tells you what are the values that you are going to insert, and then you pass those values in those arrays. So you will I know it's a pretty different way to write a SQL query. You have never written queries which includes question mark, but once you really get the hang of it, you will find it really, really easy, and it's much more secure than the old ways. So how to use this is actually given in our documentation. So you can go and check our wiki later and see that how it's working. So that's that. Okay, next library is download manager library, and what can I say about it? Okay, so I want to give you an example. Uh, you have seen download managers, right? So imagine that you have a website, and people come and download huge files from it, like 2 GB files, 4 GB files. So uh, and you as a user are downloading some, I guess 2 GB file, and you have already downloaded 1.99 GB, and then your internet connection is lost, and you have to then start all over it again. So it's a pain. I mean, just because you didn't complete the downloading of entire file, you have to start from the very beginning, and that is bad. You don't want that. So we understand that when you are making web applications, they can be like, you can host anything. I mean, you can host videos, you can host photos, and you would want that users should have the capability to resume their download. Like, I want to pause the download, I want to resume the download. You want this functionality there. So that is the function of download manager library. Okay, so I have already told you what it does. There are some 2 or 3 functions that it supports. One is that uh, it it checks whether the file you have requested to download are you really authorized to download that. So it's more of a security thing. It's not related to download manager, but you can see how relevant it is in this context, right? Because you always want to check if you are giving access to some file to some user. You want to check whether that user has really has access to that file or not. Okay, now it has also some function called a bandwidth controller. So what it does is that it controls your bandwidth so that one user cannot hog up the entire bandwidth. So suppose that there are 2 kinds of users. One has a high-speed internet, one has low-speed internet, and obviously the one guy that has high-speed internet, that will take all the bandwidth, and the low internet bandwidth wouldn't even be able to open your web page, right? Wouldn't be able to download that file. So with the bandwidth manager, what it does is that it divides the bandwidth into sectors, and one user cannot exceed their bandwidth limit. So everyone gets a chance to download your stuff. And obviously it's open to everyone, so you can just come in, and if you have anything else that you want to be included, just come contribute to the list, contribute to the codes, and it will be done. Okay, to support the resume facility, there is something called HTTP range, which is maintained in the HTTP headers. So it actually tells that how many bytes you have downloaded and how many bytes remains to be downloaded. So if you don't know about HTTP range, you can read about it, and you can then see our code of how this resume functionality is working. Okay. And yes, one more thing. It also checks whether the last time you have downloaded a file, suppose that you downloaded a text file, and after a month you come back to the website and you download the text file again, it will actually check that the old file and the new file are the same, and if it's same, then it just won't download it because you already have a copy, right? The thing is that you just don't remember that you have it. So it's a pretty great stuff. You can see that in codes. I'm sorry that it's not written here. I don't know how I missed it, but okay, let's move forward. The next library is HTTP library, and I'm sorry if the presentation is going long, but just bear with me. We have few more slides and then we'll be done. So this HTTP library, whenever you visit a website, you will always have URLs, right? So something like you will have OWASP.org/view/something. So like these URLs actually are requests made to the web server, and then web server categorizes these requests and then does something and then returns the result. So this library is all about URL manipulation, So it has everything to do with URLs. So few examples that it can do is that you can extract information from URLs, such as you can extract what is the internal request, what is the base URL, what is the host name, what is the domain name, what is the URI information. It can tell you, like, it can extract information like what is the protocol is being used. Is it HTTP? Is it HTTPS? What is the port that is being used? uh, which type of application it is. Is it CLI or GUI? So if you don't know, CLI is CLI is command line interface, which is operated from command line. Uh, it is usually used for testing purposes. And then there is another method, GUI, which most probably you are using. So GUI is actually the web browser, and so you can actually determine which type of application it is from these functions. Then there are other functions which can give you information about which HTTP methods being used, what is the server IP address, who is the root. An example is just that HTTP is CLI. It gives you true if the application is called from command line, and false if it is called from normal like web interface. Another example is change protocol, which tells you whether the protocol is HTTP or HTTPS. And you know uh, like, there are many functions. You should really go and check this library out. And with all of these functions, you can really divide your entire URL into little small chunks, and you can use those chunks to fine grain your authentication system or any of the other stuff. Because once you have fine grained, like once you have separated each of this stuff, you can actually work with each of them individually. So suppose, like, if your URL is abcd.com/file/images/a.jpg, right? So this is a long URL, and there are several things you can extract. So first thing, you can extract whether it's HTTP or HTTPS, what is the port number, what is the host name, which I said is abcd.com, what is the internal request. You can know that it is requesting a.jpg, so that is the internal file that is being called. And you obviously see the change, like see the benefit of this distinction. Because once you know that, okay, we are using HTTP, you can call appropriate certificates that actually encourage you to go to the HTTPS site, or you can automatically redirect to the HTTPS site. And the possibilities are endless. You should really try this one. So that was the HTTP library. And now we are moving forward to the tainted library. But let me just have a drink. Okay, it's been a long time since you have seen my face, so I'll just show you what I'm doing. Okay, so uh, just my colleague gave me this particular thing. So it's can you see it? It's a sticker, right? So this sticker we made like last night. So if you would have come to the presentation, you would have actually got this. So you kind of missed the sticker. You can, but I hope that someday you get that sticker. You can just paste it anywhere in your laptop, and encourage our project very much. So anyway, I was telling you about the tainted string, right? So tainted string is nothing but a marker that you want to pinpoint something what you actually do, you mark it, right? So I have a document, right? If I want to pinpoint something, I take a marker, I point it. That's what the tainted library is. So in real scenarios, when you take user input, you don't know what user has given, and you cannot trust that input, right? So, uh, so when you can't trust that input, you need to sanitize those strings, right? So what if, uh, like, you need kind of a marker that tells you that, okay, this string has been sanitized, this string has not been sanitized. And if you actually use a string that has not been sanitized, that means that you are using a dangerous string and it should throw an error, right? So this is what tainted library is. Now I'm going back to the slides to give you more information. Um, where is it? Okay. Oh, okay, I'm still not here.
Just give it some time.
Yeah. Yeah, now I'm, I guess.
No, it's good.
It's good? Yeah, okay. So, as you can see, this is the tainted library. What you do is you literally, I mean just literally mark some strings that are user input. So suppose that you get a user input in $_post username, right? That is a text field where user types the username. So in your PHP application, you can mark this string that it has not been decontaminated. That means that this string is unsafe to use. Once you mark that string, anytime that string is used anywhere, it will just throw an error saying that this string is malicious, could be malicious. First sanitize the string and then use it. So for an example, I have made this variable, okay? So this variable shows you that it contains a string. It's basically a script that says that you were hacked, okay? So now I am like marking that this string is like, you know, I'm marking this this particular variable uh, that it is unsafe to use. Now anywhere in my application, if I use this particular uh, variable $malicious, I will get this particular errors that you are trying to use a tainted variable which is not decontaminated. First, sanitize that input, and then you can use it. And once you have sanitized, you can just run the separate function, which is the opposite of mark, uh, which actually actually decontaminates the string. And once the string is decontaminated, you can use it like it just using it won't throw an error. So you are basically safe that, okay, this string was, like, if it's not throwing error, this string was definitely decontaminated. So that's a good library, right? uh, Now one of the big libraries, which is called logs library. Now I just cannot tell you how important the logs library is, because it's really, really important, guys. So what happens in log library is that uh, you usually want to keep uh, kind of separate uh, logs or kinds of files which you know, and how is it running, kind of these kinds of stuff. So you want to record everything, like if I logged in, right? So the system that should record that I logged into this library at this very moment, and I did this and this and this stuff, so that at a later time, if something goes wrong, you can see that, okay, John logged into this library this time, and then he accessed the file which he was not supposed to access, and you will know that, okay, this is an authentication problem, this is this kind of problem, this is that kind of problem. So that is what logs are. I mean, even if your entire application is, uh, hacked or something, you will still have your logs to see that what went wrong. So PHPSEC has its own inbuilt logs library, which the developers can use to keep track of important actions in the system. So our logs library has many functions. So it can it has actually many modes where you can record your actions. So it can use files to record all of the stuff. It can use databases to keep all of the files that you generate. It can actually email your critical log files, or it can use syslog, which is inbuilt in usually Linux machines. So it can use syslogs as a storage medium. Um, and the way that logs are generated and kept are 100% customizable. So if you are a developer and you don't like the way that the logs are stored or categorized, you can definitely go ahead and change the configuration settings, and you can customize it according to your own needs. So I'll just show you an example. So here in this figure, you can see that I am storing my log messages in the database, and here the log says that this is my first message. It was generated in this particular file. It has a type of warning. It is of low priority, and the time it was generated and the line number, like where this particular log message was generated. So with this particular information, you can pretty go up to that file, check the line number and why this message was generated. You can just see, and you can just correct your mistakes, and you can immediately see that the format that I'm using is that first is ID, then is the message, then is the file name. You can change it. You can change all of that. If you think that you want a separate column, that you want type, priority, and something else, you can add that. If you think that you don't want type, you are good with priority, you can remove this. I mean, you can even change whether to write warning in it, or whether it should be critical or high or low, whatever settings you want to keep. It's all customizable. So it's a pretty flexible library that you can use. You can go ahead in our wiki page. You will actually see how to use this library. Uh, okay, moving forward. Session library. I guess this is the last library. Sessions are usually the most critical point where attackers attack. So I am first going to show you, I am first going to tell you what sessions are, and then we will move forward with it. So what happens is that sessions, okay, I'm tired. Let's take a 1-minute break. Oh God, it's been, I guess, 1 hour or something. Anyways, so sessions are pretty amazing things. So when the HTTP protocol was designed, like a decade ago, it was designed in such a way that every request is standalone request. I mean, if I send 5 requests from my machine, each of these requests are individual and they do not depend on each other. What I want to say is that each request can survive on its own. Each request is atomic. You send a request, uh, it's a separate request. The server doesn't know who sent it and whether there was previous request uh, according to, like, if there was any previous request associated with this request. It just won't know anything. It just sees that, okay, I received a request, I have to do something, it does something, returns back the result. So there is no way for the server to know that who sent the request. There's only one way. Like, if you have, like, with every request you have to send your username and your password for the, like, for the sessions, to the servers, to identify that, okay, this request is from OWASP, this request is from Tom, this request is from John. But you are a smart person, you can already see the flaw in here. If you will send your username with every request, then that is bad, right? I mean, uh, anyone can spoof your user ID and can send requests on your behalf, and you won't even know it. So definitely, and it's also not viable to type your password after every request. I mean, just imagine how absurd it would be if you logged into Facebook and every time you click a link you have to enter your password. So for that reason, people actually made sessions. So what they do is that the very first time that you enter your credentials, your username and password, that username and password goes to the server. Server actually uh, checks that username and password with its own record, and if that is correct, it generates a long random string. Okay, and then it passes that random string to your server, sorry, to your browser, and that your browser stores that random string in your cookie, which is called session ID. Now every time you make a request to the server, this session ID is sent with that request. So since you could not send your username every time, you are sending this session ID. The problem with username was that everybody knows your username, so anybody can send requests from your behalf. But since session ID is random, no one knows it except you. So it's a pretty much decent way of saying that only you can send it because only you know it. And since it's random, attackers cannot guess it, right? So it's really necessary that it should be random. I mean, if it's not random, anyone can guess it, right? And it's the same thing with username. So we want that the string should be random. But even with random strings, there are some problems with session. Uh, One is called session hijacking. So what that is that suppose if you're using HTTP instead of HTTPS, right? So HTTP means that it is not encrypted. That means that when your request goes from one place to another, anyone can see it. So it's very easy. Just run a network sniffer on your on your router, and you can catch all the things that are not encrypted, including the session IDs. And if you have the session ID, you can just guess that you can just steal the identity of another person, because now you can use that session ID to make request to the server, and server will think that, okay, the session ID is correct. That means that the original user is sending it, but in reality the attacker is sending this session ID, right? So we really encourage you to use HTTPS to prevent session hijack. strings to as a session ID. That also mitigates the risk of session hijacking, because if there is no network sniffers and the attackers just have to guess the session ID, it's pretty hard for them to guess it because it's random, right? There's a problem called session fixation with these session IDs. It's pretty advanced advanced session problem. You might want to read about it. Since the presentation is getting long, I won't go into the details, but our library has like methods to prevent session fixation, and we have control layouts to control when the session should expire and when the session should be inactive. With this, I mean that uh, like open your bank's website, right, and don't do anything for straight 20 minutes. You will see a message that your session was inactive for something like 15 minutes or so, and that's why you have to re-log in. That's the same principle with so our library implements that. And there's something called session expiry. It's same as you know session inactivity time, except the fact that uh, after a certain period, something like 3 months or 6 months, uh, if you have not logged out, you have to log out and log in again. So these two functionalities are inbuilt in our libraries. Anyone can use it. And what else we have done is that PHP's own session, which is used by many developers by default, it uses files to handle the sessions, right? So every time you create a session ID, that is actually stored in a file and kept in a server. Now, if the server is attacked, you will, like, all your session IDs will be kind of be compromised, and even if you don't talk about session IDs, using file in the first place is like it's old, right? Because it's not fast, it's not that dynamic, and it's a pain to use files. So what we have done is that we have modified the structure, that now the session IDs are not being stored in files, but it is now being stored in the database. So that is, like, anyone knows that database is obviously much more secure than files. So that is a thumbs up. Okay, uh, like with database, like the session IDs are stored in database, and along with session IDs, any session data that user sets are also stored in database. Um, the sessions have the ability to roll, right? So this is a new thing that we have introduced. So uh, just for example, suppose that you entered a website that has two different kind of stuff, right? So one is the page you see without login, and one is the page you see after you logged in, which is a more customizable page. So for example, let's take Amazon, right? So even if you don't log into Amazon, you can actually view the products. Okay, so as soon as you enter Amazon, Amazon server keeps a session ID in your browser, and that session ID has low priority, right? That like that session ID cannot be used to access sensitive information like your mailing address, your phone number, etc., etc. To access those stuff, you need to log in, and once you log in, another session ID is set. Now, did you paid attention when I said another session ID, right? Because if you just leave the same session ID, the server cannot differentiate whether a privilege escalation happened or not, right? So now when you are logged in, you are now a privileged user. You are not the general user anymore. And so a new session ID needs to be set, which is called privilege escalation or de-escalation, because the same should happen once you log out. You know, your session ID should change again once you log out. So this is called session rolling, and this is automatically done in our session library. Okay, now with all of that done, uh, one thing I guess I didn't said in the uh, uh, I didn't said in the very beginning. I guess I forgot to say that. So all our sessions are decoupled. So it's something like you don't have, like, if you like our authentication library, you don't have to like copy all of the libraries. You can just go ahead and use the authentication library. If you like our uh, session library, you can just go ahead and download the session library, and it will work on its own. So all the libraries are decoupled, but except with one exception. Uh, there are some core libraries which are actually used by all other libraries, and it contains some pretty good functions that anybody can it. These are kind of helper functions which help the other libraries uh, to do their task efficiently. So, for example, there is a time library that has kind of a central time. It provides a central time for the overall application. There is a random library that provides you, that generates random strings and numbers. There is an error library that converts errors to exceptions. There's a functions library that actually sanitizes the user input to make it access safe. So going through one by one, the essence of time library is that uh, every time, uh, like when you are testing your application, or when you are doing some like when you are dealing with different time zones, you would like to change times very often. And if you change the system time, that's actually not good, because uh, there are many applications that depend on your system time, like Kerberos and many other functions, that if you change your system time every time, then it will actually destroy all other applications, and that is not desirable. So we made a wrapper class on top of every other class that makes time that actually gives a central time location, and changing this particular time wouldn't change your system time. System time would still be same. It's just that for your application, the time will change. Random library, sorry. The rest of the slides about time is how to use that library. I'm going to skip this part. You can already see that in the wiki page. Then there is random class. Its use is pretty much straightforward. It generates some random strings that are used in the overall application. So uh, behind the scenes, we actually use some pretty great, well-tested functions. Like example, OpenSSL, mcrypt. These are like well-tested, and they really provide a good random numbers and random strings. And on top of that, we infuse them with some system parameters like POSIX get PID, which gets the process ID and the current memory usage. So that makes it pretty much secure and random. Then there is error class. So the essence of error class is that um, PHP doesn't does throw two kinds of errors. One is exceptions and one is errors. So something like if you if you have if you do 2 by 0, that's an error. And if you try to access a private member which you should not access, that's an exception. So you see, many people are not good with distinguishing what is errors and what is exceptions. For them, like major languages like Java, they just have one thing, exception, and nobody knows about errors. They all are handled like just the exceptions. And PHP has two different things, errors and exceptions, which makes it like pretty confusing. So we have this error class, and what it does is that it can every time your application has encountered an error, it will convert it to exception. So like after using this particular class, you will not have to worry about errors because you will always get exceptions. So now the rest of the error slides will show like it explains you how this works, but it's like I'm again skipping this part because it's already given in the wiki page, and you can read it and you can understand it. It's pretty easy. And then lastly, there's this function module. So what it does is that when you echo something out, right? When you print something out, you don't actually check whether that is safe or not, right? And so what this library does is that it has a set of functions which replaces PHP's own function. Like for example, in PHP you use something like echo and then you write the string that you want to print. Okay, so that echo just prints it. It doesn't even check what it is printing, whether it's safe to print or not. So we made another function, like different functions which you can use to um, like you can use it instead of echo, something like exo, which are echo replacements, and you can use that to echo something out. And internally, these functions take your whatever you want to echo, and it sanitizes them, and then it prints them. So it makes it access safe. Now, the last thing is that in PHPSEC we have also made a scanner tool. So this tool, just excuse me for a minute. I need to drink water. Oh God, I'm really tired now. So this is the last slide. I promise you, this is the last slide. So this scanner tool, what it does is that it is a static scanner. So once you run this scanner, it will go through each of your files line by line. It will check each of your codes line by line, and it will find places where attacks can happen which are not good. Like in the first version, this tool just checks if you are using statements like echo and printf, and if you are using them, it will suggest you to use our own functions, which is like XSS safe functions, and it's run from the command line. So you kind of get this kind of uh, this kind of value. So this kind of display. So in default mode, it can show you two different kinds of display. One is the normal display, where it shows that where the error has occurred, like where it has found the error. So you can see that it has found the error in
functions.php in line 36, and it says that you are using echo, and you should not use that because it can cause injection attacks. And you should use like it shows you, it actually shows you the line that where the error has occurred and its type. Okay, and the other is GCC style display. You already are familiar with GCC because I guess you have done C programming. So you can choose either of the display types, or not, or if you don't like this, you can just design your own. It's 100% customizable. So that was that, and I guess I need to tell you where we are with now and what needs to be done in future. So I've already showed you a lots of libraries that we have already created. Just the future work is that we there's a project called PHP RBAC, which is role-based access control. So as you can guess, it is access, it is access control, who can access what and who should not be accessing what things. So this is made, this project is already prepared. It's already a ready component. We just need to plug this in with our own project, and since it's also a OWASP project and it's open source, we are legally thumbs up to incorporate the two projects. So that is the immediate future work. We are also planning to implement a secure cache library to securely catch which pages should be actually be cached, because some pages like which contains transaction details should not be cached by the browser. So for that purpose, we need to design this particular library. There should be like a secure I-18 library which deals with international languages and locales. We will discuss more about it in future. And there is secure SOAP and REST library which we are planning to implement. And what REST? I mean, it depends on you. If you really get some great ideas, just come up in our mailing list and you can actually contribute with us. So it really depends on you what our future work is. And finally, I'm going to show you the links. So it's pretty self-explanatory that this is the project page, the sample application that we have created on top of the project, and the official website, the project presentation where it is located. And you can also use the QR codes if you are like QR maniac. And finally, the last slide that that says thank you. So really thank you to see my presentation, and you can ask more questions in the forums or in the YouTube comments. And if you would like, you can rate this presentation in the given link. And that's it. So thank you guys. Thank you for this really long presentation. Please give please give truthful and unbiased comments and ask lots of questions. It has lots and lots of this project has lots of scope, so I really hope that you will come forward and we all can contribute in it. So with this, I'm going to stop this broadcast here. Goodbye. Have a great day.